I'll go to the computer. Hi, it's Walter again. I'm the Dutchman. I'm working here with the environmental services team at Wakefield. Just in case anybody else gets to watch this, this is meant our recording to support Carlos and Keisha. So welcome, Sultan and Rich.
Yeah.
Today's conversation that we're going to be having is about how to motivate and inspire your team members. We know one thing for sure, right? Is that we need to have the right leadership capabilities. In other words, you have to present yourself to the team as a servant leader, not a directive leader. We know that we need to have our key responsibilities, right? We have to love the people. We have to lead through the context and not control. We have to make sure that we create this winning environment by looking for acts of kindness and appreciation and rewards. And we need to make sure that people feel that they're being developed. Those are the key drivers to our team members, and that is of course critically important. Having said that, we don't live in a dreamy world. We know for a fact that we have people of the full spectrum, right? We have people who are fully committed and self-directed, who are like owners. You just tell them one thing and they're already off and doing it, or no matter what you say, they're always doing the right thing, right? We would love to have an entire team of just types of people, right? That they will go out and do the right thing always. Well, the truth is that maybe 5% or 10% of your team is like that. The vast majority of the team is somewhere in the middle. These are the people who might be leaders in the making, or people who have shown interest and are vested, or people who are kind of like this coming along. They're compliant. They don't do anything wrong, but they don't really go out of their way to do anything extra. And then on the flip side, on the non-committed side, we have these people who are what we call overt and covert non-compliant. So you have people who will outright talk about how bad the hospital is, or how bad the team is, or how bad this is, and others just think it. But when they have those negative thoughts, it's very difficult to be fully committed, right? They just do the bare minimum. And then, of course, there's a small segment, hopefully less than 5% of the team, that we call them as saboteurs. They come to work to work against the grain. Now, hopefully, we have only one or two of those. But in a union environment, what we have seen over time is that people find it easier to leave them alone than to actually do something about it. Now, traditionally speaking, we have a disciplinary process, right? We have a performance improvement plan, and we have these direct communication. You have to do this, this, and this, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. Or you have to do this, this, and this, otherwise you're going to write you up, and this will be your final warning. Well, we have found out over time that none of those things really motivate people to do anything better, right? Because we don't give them a choice. We just tell them what to do. Well, we certainly know from the Gen Zs and the millennials, they do not like to be told what to do. Right? The second responsibility of a highly effective leader is to get them to buy in to what it is that you want to do. So to motivate, you have to do it with fierce resolve. And the fierce resolve means you cannot just say something once. You have to say it continuously. And you get the people to buy into it. Now, it's also not meant to be something that is really hard, right? It's not about tough love. It's not about looking them in the face and tell them they're wrong, or tell them that they're going to get written up, or they're going to get a final warning, or they're going to get fired. None of those things motivate anybody. If anything, it makes people more cautious. So this is the formula for success, right? What you want to do as a servant type leader is to be as soft as possible. I'm not saying a softie. I want you to be as soft as possible, and then as firm as it takes. And what that means is that you want to get people to buy into what you want to do. And only if they, after multiple iterations, and I'm going to show you in a minute what that looks like, they are not responding to that, then you might have to follow up with some tough love, right? But the key along the way is to recognize people intrinsically and abundantly. And what does that mean? Well, we know that to have a highly engaged workforce, we need to reward, recognize, and appreciate. Those are the three basic needs of every single worker that you have there. And the next one is about development, right? A lot of them say, grow me, challenge me, develop me. Well, if you don't take care of that causes problems, right? Even with the highest performance. And then after it comes money. People love to say, listen, I need to give people money in order to make them happy. That's not completely true. But if people feel appreciated, rewarded, and recognized, and are being developed, the vast majority will feel that they're much better positioned and they will feel more engaged, right? The word abundantly is to do it often. So when I have a conversation with all of you about writing thank you cards or finding acts of kindness, well, listen, 3 to 5 times per week. Think about how many actions your team takes on a day-to-day basis, right? You're doing at least 43 turnovers. You know that you do all of the bathrooms, all of the rooms, all of the hallways. All There's lots of things that are happening taking place with 50, 60, 70, 80 employees that you have on a given day that are working on 3 different shifts. You're telling me that you can only come up with 4 or 5 acts of kindness for the week, right? It's the acts of kindness, the recognizing that, the abundance is really the key to long-term success. Now, handwriting cards, 3 to 5 per week is fine. But it is how you recognize on the go is also very, very meaningful. It's even more meaningful if you recognize them how they want to be recognized. I always say there's this old thing with Sir Richard Branson, right? The CEO of Virgin Atlantic. And he boasts about the fact that he says, I love everybody the way I want to be loved. By big billboard, I love everybody the way, but that's really not true because I'm not Sir Richard Branson, right? I want him to love me the way I want to be loved. So, in order for you to figure that out or what that really means, this is a golden opportunity to be able to ask each member of your team and say, hey, of these 14 attributes, words that are on the paper over there, circle 2, 3, or maybe 4 that are most meaningful to you. I said, if you do that with your team and you collect this information, you keep it in your back pocket, the next time somebody has something that they had a good performance, you can figure out how to best recognize them. Right? It's not about what you think they need. It's about what they would like to have, the way they like to be recognized and appreciated. That's a very much of a paradigm shift, right? It changes the way we think. So somebody might say, need me, right? If they feel that they're in the periphery, never really thought about, and they don't feel good about them, over time they get disgruntled by it. Well, if they tell you need me, then you can easily go to that, say, hey, Susie, I need you today. And they will feel extra special because of that, because Rich came and said, I need you, use the words, right? Focus or direct me. I'm sure you have people on your team who are all over the place, but they function much better if you give them a task to do, right? Empower me, inform me, include me, be abundant with me. All these things have separate meanings and depends on what the people circle, 2, 3, maybe 4 of them. You have now an opportunity to directly cater, right? Lead with those intrinsic values in mind. And it is, of course, those who tell me, grow me, inspire me, challenge me, are really the ones that you want to have on your team who you say, hey, listen, next time there's a project, I want to draw on them. Right? They've told me that they want to grow and be challenged, right? They might be next level leaders. So if you have a project and you need somebody to be a champion, to go to those people, it will be so much easier for you to get the job done rather than doing it yourself, right? That's really not the function behind it. So the 4 phases of motivation. So traditionally speaking, we tend to bring people in and tell them what to do. Well, we have found out over time that that's just not very functional. So I would challenge you to think of every single conversation that you have, that you do it in 4 phases. Now, since not every single incident that you have occur is equal, you have to adjust it to how quickly you want to follow up. But I know for a fact that most of the time when a supervisor manager disciplines somebody and they say, we're going to talk about it next month never happens. Right? Because we get busy, we forget about it, we don't log it anywhere. And then we scratch our head, and 3 months from now, they're doing, that the employee is doing the exact same thing again. So that's what we need to change. What we want to do initially is to suggest to the person, if you have a lower performer on your team, and you bring them into the conversation, into a conference room, preferably not your office, or a neutral, place where they feel most comfortable, so they feel non-threatened by anybody, right? Is that you want to be able to have a really open dialogue about what the desired result for the department is. What is it that the hospital wants out of each position? For example, it is the hospital's goal to at every patient room is turned over within 60 minutes or less. Now you can now shift, go back to the old way of doing it. So listen, Susie, I want you to do this, this, and this, and this every single time because that will give me the 60 minutes. Do you think that person is motivated when you tell them what to do?
Sure.
Not so much. Probably not so much, right? The high performer will be because they got it under control. But that middle group, the low performer, is not stimulated. But if you say to them, so listen, this is the desired outcome, and then you ask the question, what can you do to meet the desired outcome? What can you do on a daily basis to get a little closer to that desired outcome? That is a very functional way of starting a conversation. And that's what we call is preserving choice. Right? Instead of telling them or directing them, you ask them, you suggest to them, listen, this is the outcome. What can you do? How does that sound? Does that sound like a different way of doing it than normally? Red Sultan, is that in a normal way of doing it, or is it mostly if somebody did something wrong, you tell them what to do?
So, well, you would normally, react that way to like I still try to give the option, right? To kind of look at the task at a different way. If they did something wrong and suggest maybe you should do it this particular way instead of getting down their throat, like do it my way. Because again, sometimes I take suggestions from the housekeeper themselves. So I always
Yeah.
still suggest and then directive you would ask the same way. And then if that ask, maybe now try it my way, right? And then
So,
the take action part never really get there. Normally within the three, the item is normally done.
so resist the temptation of doing that the next time. I would suggest to you to use this technique. So instead of telling them what they need to do,
Hmm.
say to them, listen, the outcome is this. This is what we are. This is what we're aiming for. And then you have to turn it around and say, what can you do to get me one step closer to that? And whatever it is that they say, it doesn't make a difference how small of a change it is. You say, okay, listen, that sounds great. Good first step in the right direction. Why don't you and I meet up next week or tomorrow, whatever the sense of urgency behind it is, and reassess to see how well it went? And that's the weak link, right? Often we tell people things, or maybe even
Right.
suggest things to people, and then we don't follow up. That's the problem. So it's not the employees, often the supervisors, right? We as leadership don't follow up because we get busy and we do other things. And next thing
Right.
it's all lost, right? It's no different if you're trying to do a time and attendance or sloppy work or professional conduct, whatever may be the case. Now, how often you follow up with them, it depends on the urgency, right? If it is a safety violation, that is not a fireable offense, but it is something of seriousness, you might want to follow up with them on a daily basis. But most of the time, you can say to them, so listen, let's meet next week and review how well you did. Not saying I'm going to tell you how well you did. No, we're going to review. You get to bring back a report to me and see how well you performed against expectation. That's called a psychological contract. And once you have that psychological contract, people are far more likely to do it. Now they might not do it up to the specifications that you would do it at, but any movement in the right direction should be recognized with abundance. That's the key to success. So let's say you come back in a week and nothing has happened, right? The person didn't do anything. Well, what you then want to do is you want to escalate it, right? You want to say, listen, last week I suggested, and I'm a little disappointed you did not follow through on that. Today I'm asking of you to be part of the solution and to help us drive X, Y, and Z, the outcome. And then the question goes again is what can you do to get one step closer to that, right? And again, if they make a movement in the right direction, you recognize with abundance. But you still meet with them on a week-to-week basis. As long as they continue to make progress, they are in a good position, right? They're in a position of recovery. It
Right.
is the consistency of follow up that you own is where things most of the time go wrong. Now, let's say you have somebody who didn't listen to suggesting, didn't respond to asking. Now it's 2 weeks into it. You have shown appreciation, recognition. You have tried to celebrate small successes, but the person is just not refusing to budge. And that's where your opportunity comes in to shift it now to what we call directing. Right? This is not about telling people what to do, but it's about being candidly reviewing the reality of the situation. Right? It's a sobering view. You don't need to go so listen, if you don't do it this week, you're going to get fired next week. But you want to get to a point that it is, listen, I'm looking at this. I'm seeing X, Y, and Z. It's not meeting expectations of the hospital itself. It's having a negative impact. And once you get through to them, right? Once they start recognizing that, hopefully they'll be open enough to be able to tell you why they're not performing. Hopefully it's not an excuse. And then it is about reestablishing what can you do this week to make it better next week. Same question each time. And if you say this under the direct phase, the person should know that there's no endless number of phases, right? Is that I've been very respectful and kind and
Right.
courteous. I've given you the benefit of the doubt. I've recognized small wins, but we continue to have this one failure. Well, that means maybe that you need to say, listen, next week when we meet and it is not in place, we have to start looking at it from a different perspective.
Right.
So
That's what I was about to ask.
you don't need to be threatening,
right.
but they need to know if they, and again, the psychological contract is with them, right? They say, I am going to do A, B, C, and D. And if you come back and wasn't done, it's on them, right? Firing becomes very easy because they are firing themselves.
Right. So it's
Now,
to take action can escalate thereafter.
every time. So you
Gotcha.
go up, yeah, you go up slightly more meaningful in the words or more direct with the voice that you have, but you don't want to be demeaning. And you don't want to tell them what to do. You still want to preserve choice on their part in order to be able to go out and you celebrate the small successes because they're more likely to motivate them. So let's say if somebody fails to do the after directing, now it is about taking action.
Right.
So in your case, this is about bringing the union leadership in, whoever the representative is, and have a conversation about, hey, Susie is supposed to do A, B, and C. I've suggested it, I've asked her, and I've directed her to do this with no avail. How can we work together for a common solution? And interesting enough, often unions, who you work with and you have developed a partnership with, they will recognize a bad employee that is also holding them back from success, and they will do the talking, and they will actually help you offload a particular person. Right, so it all depends. So this is a good module. I hope you can take a picture of it with your and I can send the presentation afterwards so as a PDF. But I would suggest keeping this tool very close. Now, I skipped over the timeout between 2 and 3. So in order to be able to, instead of just going on the same pace, going from 2 to 3, you always have to kind of take a step back and look at yourself and say, listen, did I explain this well enough? Does this person understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish? Right? Am I coming over and across as intimidating or warmongering? Right? Am I giving the person the right amount of time in order to be able to provide the information? Right? Am I meaningfully present in the conversation, or am I fiddling around my telephone and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do after work? Right. So all the questions in the yellow on the side are questions you have to consider. And if you did not speak with clarity, the person doesn't have an understanding of it. Well, then the first training opportunities for you to go back is to provide that training. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would like each one of you, Carlos, to and Keisha for that matter, I want you to select one person on your team that you can talk about next week. So next week, you should be able to paint a picture of one person on your team that is on the non-committed side. In other words, either a saboteur over the COVID non-compliance, right? The people who can really bring down the house, so to speak, and not in a good way, right? So that is that. So we will keep coming back to this model over time because I think it's really important for you to learn it and to utilize the tools available to you, right? So you can find it in the manual as well. So what are the 5 essential motivational behaviors that you want to adopt as a leader? Well, be as soft as possible and as firm as you need to be. Right? You don't need to be apologetic, but you need to be nice about it.
Right.
Right? It is that anybody, if you walk in, especially Rich, you and I have told people, walk into a room and start pointing fingers, people won't hear a word you say because the first thing they are is that they are afraid of their lives. Right? They feel that this fear sets in because you have somebody approaching. So if you want to have a really good conversation with somebody, I always say, listen, go to them, go to where they are located. Rather than having them come to you, and especially not come to you not knowing what you're going to be presenting on. Preserve choice, don't force, right? Give them an opportunity to tell you what it is that they can do. Now, the problem is often is that people um, uh, will feel that people are being directive. Well, again, sometimes it's word, sometimes interpretive. So you can certainly say that after you've said something, do you feel, do you feel motivated by this, or do you feel that I'm too directive? Right? It is preserving choice. It's about them telling you what the solution to the problem is. They're more likely to do it. Always maintain dignity to others and be kind. Right? Just because somebody did something wrong doesn't mean you have to treat them like a stepchild for the rest of the week. Right? It's okay for team members to move up. It's okay for team members to have a bad day. Right? We have to be strong and empathetic around those people. Never be mean or angry to somebody. And I mean mean and angry or be distracted. Like there's nothing worse than having a conversation with you and I'm fiddling with my telephone at the same time because the person who you talk to will think that you're on the phone and not with him or her. Right? These phones are toxic in that sense. And then use a positive reinforcements continually. So we know that you get a whole lot more with honey than with vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that takes time and effort on your part. So a couple of little exercises you can do for yourself because this is something that needs to be practiced, right? So for your journaling activity, you can say, what are your strengths with regard to motivating and feeling so? What out of the things we spoke about you do well? Right? What are your improvement opportunities regarding motivation and fears resolve? Now we're going to look at that a little bit deeper to ourselves and as a team, but you can think about what is some areas where you know that if you improve it, the patient satisfaction scores will go up as well. What is the most significant thing that you want to focus on? And again, it is not the how many things we can do, but you want to lead the people with some level of focus. What is it that is important to them that they can do now? All right. And describe the situation where you will apply this new focus. So find a scenario during the week where you can at least do box 1, 2, and maybe 3, maybe even 4. Okay. And we'll talk more about problem solving and how to get to the tip of the spear and work your way through the weeds in order to get to that area that really requires your ultimate focus. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna take a picture of this. I'm not gonna screenshot it. I'm just gonna use my
Yeah, no,
phone.
that's fine. There's no problem.
Oh, the other one too. Yeah.
You want to do this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were sent to me, Rich.
I can send you the slide deck, guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Please, I'll take a
Yeah,
picture.
I'll send the slide deck. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to stop the recording for them so they have that. Okay. I will send the email to you right after the call is over with.
Okay.
So again, this is not a lesson that you can just apply and know for the rest of your life. This is something no different than the 4 key responsibilities. Is something that needs to become part of your DNA. This is the mindset shift. Now, guys, if you have somebody who commits a act of violence or a safety issue, obviously you can use the exact same steps, but do it all in one day. right? So this can be adapted to your needs of the organization itself. So it's very, very flexible. So you can use it all in one conversation. You can use it all in one day. You can use it over the week and then 9 weeks or whatever time period is that. And sometimes you're mandated by HR to do it over 90 days. Well, that still doesn't mean that you have to wait until the 90th day to fire somebody if they're not responsive. Use this technique. If they don't move with suggesting or asking or directing or telling and directing, well, you got bigger problems.
Take action. Yeah.
Right? Why have a negative, non-compliant employee waiting for 90 days if after 21 days you know that they are no good for the organization?
Right.
Right? Okay, very good. Any questions on this?
No, that's
Okay.
pretty standard practice. It's like over the amount of time. So that was that. So I thought first you meant it within a day. Like when I was speaking of having somebody do something, I was speaking more in the terms of like they're trying to get something out, and specifically like we get a lot of purple in our porcelain sinks, and there's a process we used to use when I was housekeeping on the
Yeah.
first floor that it just works immediately. But now there's even easier. Somebody else showed me that they take one of the buffing pads and we don't even need solution, and without scratching it too, it'll come right off. And so the processes are different, but it's like suggesting something and then telling somebody that's a veteran to do something, they don't really listen. So they got to go to the process, and you don't want to do it that way because they fight, but since they think they know because they've been doing it for so long, it becomes where that process comes into play.
Yeah.
You suggest.
It is. It's the resistance to change.
Yeah.
That you have to overcome. And you will find out when we start talking about the employees on the non-committed side, right? The COVID non-compliant or even the saboteur.
Mm-hmm.
Often they are so stuck in cultural upbringing and experience that they have had in their personal lives, they bring it to work. Right. So we just need to figure out how we can activate them, but we cannot expect a person who's non-compliant to become an owner tomorrow.
Right.
And often what we do is, listen, this is the outcome that we desire. And if we don't get exactly what we want or exceed that, we are disappointed with them. And we let them know, well, and we might sound upset and angry with them. Well, do you think that anybody is motivated by that? No. But if you see a person making a genuine effort to doing the right thing and you recognize it with abundance, do you think they will do more of that? Yeah. Right. So it's a different mindset. The old mindset is very directive. You do this, this, and this. If you don't, you're fired. If you don't, then I'm going to write you up. Put that away. Right? Let it go. Instead, is hey, listen. The outcome that we desire is every bet is turned over within 60 minutes of notification. What can you do to help me accomplish that? And this is the reason why is that the patient emergency department has been on a stretcher for 8 hours, and they really want to get into the room so they can get some sleep. That's the why behind it. And you'll start seeing the people start thinking differently. You're not threatening them, right? You're asking them to cooperate and be part of it, be part of the solution. All right, guys, have a wonderful afternoon, evening. Can't wait to hear more details about your party. Good luck tomorrow with your festivities. And I look forward to having a chat next week. If you need me in between, you always know where to find me.
Yes, sir, Walter.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you. I appreciate you guys.
You
All
got
right.
it.
Talk to you soon. Take care. I'll send you the slides now.
Oh, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye-bye.